Welcome to Poetics, where poetry escapes the page and resonates directly in your soul. I am Tamarah Rockwood, broadcasting from the shores of Bainbridge Island, a place where nature itself seems to compose verses in the whispers of waves and the rustling of leaves. By day, my husband Ben and I run Bainbridge Island Press, creating space for poets who dare to share their most authentic work. But we've come to realize something essential. Words on paper capture only half the poetic experience. Poetry truly comes alive through the human voice with all its vulnerability, passion, and unfiltered emotion. That is the essence of Poetics. Each episode brings you intimate performances by poets sharing their work exactly as they envisioned it. You'll experience those rare moments when perfectly delivered words send electricity through your veins. We will explore poetry from diverse perspectives and discover how powerful verses can completely transform our understanding of ourselves and the world. Because the best poetry doesn't just speak to you, it reveals you to yourself. So we will explore everything from the profound to the playful, the experimental to the elegy. Whether you hold a doctorate in literature or you haven't touched a poem since your school days, consider this your invitation to poetry's most vibrant gathering. So settle in with your favorite drink, find your comfortable corner, and prepare to receive poetry. It is time to discover how this ancient art form remains so explosively, so perfectly relevant to today. Welcome to Poetics. So today we are going to be talking about a poem called Trickster, and it is from the Poetics anthology in 2023, and that theme was coyote. And I loved that theme, and I will never get tired of it. There's just so much in life to wrestle with, to noodle over, to think about, and it feels like the coyote or trickster figures explains the mystery of this. What does it feel like to us? How do we experience it? And so that's why I loved this poem. It's called Trickster by Leah Haight. This is a poem that chronicles the speaker hiding in nature, using forest imagery to depict someone concealing themselves from a pursuer. This narrator is employing survival tactics. They are finding shelter, they're remaining quiet, they're moving stealthily, they're constantly vigilant. And the final stanzas have this wonderful twist when we learn what hope is. Hope is the trickster that they've been fleeing. Ends with a surrender that feels both defeated and liberating. So I am going to let Lee read her poem, and then I'm going to come back and get into it. So here we go.
Trickster. Survival depends on shelter. A burned out tree or a deadfall I drape a severed bough over and duck under, my back against the trunk, feet tucked at improbable angles, begging my heavy breath not to betray me. No one will find me here. I'm camouflaged in the forest, indiscernible to the passerby, to the nesting grouse's courtship struts in string. To the nesting grouse's courtship struts in spring, or the wandering elk's triumphant rut in fall. I have no rest from you. You're ready to pounce at the slightest hint of softening. You almost snare me, Spooked into a sprint, I high step through overgrowth and underbrush, careful not to hack a trail, a beacon that would shout, "Here I am, death, over here." For now, I am safe in my hollow while I wait for you to lose interest and catch another scent. I have the patience of an eagle eyeing its prey, a bobcat's stealth stalking its next meal. But it's Coyote who surprises me, his paw at my shield, leading her right to me. I did not sense his flank, my movements mirrored by his shadow. I thought we understood each other, to live and let live, leaving well enough alone. All right, I know when I am cornered. I will go peacefully, without a fight. Hope, you trickster, I surrender.
This is a great poem to wrestle with. There's so much here. So the poet is employing extended metaphor throughout the Trickster, using wilderness survival as a framework for emotional self-preservation. The poem operates on dual planes, which gives it this wonderful complexity. The literal description of hiding in a forest and the symbolic representation of emotional withdrawal is present, and the progression from active hiding to resigned surrender, it is creating this narrative that it resonates with the human experience and the human condition of vulnerability. The structure also mirrors the content, and that's something that I always remind myself, and I've just said it a million times to myself, but the form must reflect the function. And so what that means is the form of a poem reflects the function of the poem. And for example, when you're writing, you need to decide what form the poem is going to take. And when I've done rewrites of my own stuff, there have been some where I'm like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but whatever it's in right now is not working, because if it is a sonnet, it is most likely to be a little bit more of a serious poem that you're talking about. It doesn't always have to be, but I think that a very strict sonnet should be a little bit more serious than something else, unless it's being just outrageously surreal or absurdist. So these are all broad strokes, and every rule is meant to be broken, and that's the disclaimer, so I can stop stumbling over myself to get through this. So what I'm trying to say is, if it's a sonnet, it's pretty structured, and so if you're writing something that is not too serious and it's just about, a picnic where nothing really happens and it's just a lovely day, like, maybe it could be something else. Maybe that could be freeform. Maybe that could be in tercets. Maybe something else. But if you are doing something that is absurdist, the form should reflect that as well. And so I would do either tercets or heterometrical verses where you have a set order, but it is not all the same. And I just want to give a big shout out to Brian Bordor, because he's a professor that I took a class of his at the Robert Frost Farm. And last summer, he was teaching about heterometric verse. And number one, I had never heard that word before. And I'm like, I have no idea what this is. And so I tried Googling it. I'm just like, just starting from scratch. And it really just means that a sonnet has the same lines all the way through. And so it's much more homogeneous, although that's not how they call it. But heterometric means that the lines are all different. So it would be an example of 3, 5, 2, or that goes all the way down. So every stanza has that line, or I don't know. There's an order, but it's an order that is different. So I hope that makes sense. It was a really wonderful class, and I loved it so much, and I learned so much from it. Although I tried to tell my kids about heterometric verses, and they couldn't remember the name of it, and so they always called it heliocentric verses. And I tried to throw that joke at the Robert Frost farm, and it didn't land. But I think it's funny. So anyways, okay, that being said, so with this form that you can find in the Poetics book, you can buy that book on our website. You can buy it in any bookstore. You can buy it on Amazon if you want to. Like, you can literally, you can go somewhere and it'll be there. But I want you to read it because it's actually really interesting. The structure of this poem mirrors its content. It starts with dense, hurried descriptions that gradually open into more reflective spaces. With the rhythm, the poet is using line breaks to create moments of tension and release. Are they caesuras? Probably. And the use of these caesuras is this element of time that she is injecting into her verses. One of the lines that I really liked was, "No one will find me here." And I think that that's interesting just because she also is inviting us with her into this forest. And so there is the irony and duality of that. But also she has a line that says, "I have no rest from you," which stands isolated. And the gravity of that is palpable. The final revelation of hope, being the trickster, is this wonderful paradox. It is the very thing that might sustain someone through hardship, and it becomes what the speaker fears most, suggesting that allowing oneself to hope might be more terrifying than accepting defeat. How is that not great poetry? It's the economy of language was beautiful. I love when poets use this to reveal something in us that's true. I have 3 strong points. I have notes on all of this. 3 strong points. Sensory precision, really. She has lines like "feet tucked at improbable angles" and "high step through overgrowth and underbush." This is a visceral experience that she is taking the audience with her. There is a predator and prey dynamics that she is playing with. She is shifting power dynamics through animal imagery. She is positioning the speaker first as prey before revealing the ultimate reversal. And then the poem's structure builds towards its conclusion with wonderful pacing. Each stanza adds a layer of understanding until the final lines are delivering the emotional impact, and then it is transformed. And isn't that what the trickster does? Is it chases and chases, and then at the end it transforms. That is the trickster. It is the shapeshifter. It's not what we expect. This is really beautiful poetry that I enjoyed reading because when I read it, it invited me to reflect not only on the narrative, but also it invited me to take this poem and chew on the language, I think. It was something that I was able to read and say, I know exactly what she's talking about. I have never thought of it this way. What a beautiful narrative to lead people through on complicated emotions and complicated situations. This work achieves what poetry must. I think that it's putting the personal into the universal. I think that the surprising perspective on hope reveals this poem as remarkably sensitive and I think remarkably psychological in a way that was fresh and just illuminating an aspect of the human condition that was fun. I say fun, and this is fun for me. It's so delightful. I feel happy when I read this, and so that is fun for me. So I hope that you pick up the book. You can pick it up anywhere. I hope that you write a poem yourself that reflects this aspect. What does hope look like? It's different every day. We'll see. Okay, that is all for today, poetry friends. If you've enjoyed diving into the world of verse with us, join us next time. We've got more poets to meet, more poems to explore, and more literary adventures to share. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, and keep poetry close to your heart. Thank you for joining Poetics Podcast, where we bring poetry to life, one verse at a time.